We are back. What's going on, everyone? Gio here. I'm joined this week once again by Mr. Sean Wingblade from Flick and Wheel, and we are discussing Halo Episode 2, titled Unbound, right? Unbound is the
Unbound,
title?
yes.
Yeah.
Which is very telling to the story that we get to see.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. There's a lot to talk about in this episode. Thank you so much for joining us, whether you're watching on live or on playback. Sean, how you doing, man?
No, good. Long day at work, but got home just in time. And got to watch the episode through twice, actually, while I was working. Don't tell my bosses, please. That,
Oh, wow.
we got to fit things in, okay? We don't have time for all this.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's recap a little bit of last week. So basically a small town, Madrigal,
Yeah.
and town full of rebels. Covenant invades, absolute destruction. I mean, we talk about a violent, epic
Yes.
introduction of the alien covenant, specifically the elites, who are
Hmm.
the badasses of the alien covenant. And then we're introduced to the Spartans, and one of the Spartans, them
Hmm.
seven, comes across an artifact. They call it a relic,
Hmm.
and turns out he can activate it in a way that no other people can.
Right.
And it freaks the Covenant out. It freaks the UNSC out, everybody. And things just go crazy from there. John ends up turning on the UNSC, sort of turning by disobeying orders. The UNSC is forced to send the Spartans to go and hunt down their most decorated and badass Spartan out of all of them.
Right.
And eh, while that's happening, the UNSC is trying to do some politics and cover up for the destruction that happened. And, that's kind of what put John in this predicament. And so episode 2 picks up right where episode 1 left off.
Hmm.
And we don't have to go beat by beat of the episode, but I want to real quick get your just a quick summary of what you thought of this episode coming off of the first one.
Well, first one had quite a bit of action to start, right? Right off the jump, we see the destruction of the town. And on is it was magical the town or there's the encampment or the whole planet? I can't remember. They just kept referring it to as magical, so I just assumed it
Magical,
was the whole
yeah.
planet. But
Yeah.
we see that destruction, and then we see the Spartans come in and raise hell against the Covenant elites that were there. And then this one was much more of the backstory because from jump we see, I think it says 22 years ago, and we see
Mhm.
him as a younger kid with his partner Soren, who we meet the older version, Bokeem Woodbine, later on in the episode.
Yeah.
And this is much more of, I feel like, less of the action, more of like a character study almost of John and Soren, their relationship from kids to now adulthood, and John himself, struggling with essentially what he just did, and what he just committed, from his whole life, and he just committed this, treason, essentially, like right, disobeying
Treason.
orders and
Yep.
stuff against the UNSC. And then also on the other side, we're seeing more of the motivations of like Halsey and the other generals and the people in command, essentially, of the UNSC, and seeing what are they up to and what is their end goals type of thing.
Mhm.
And so it was interesting and it was cool. Less action. If you were here for a gunfight, there wasn't much of that at all, if any. I don't think there's any at all, actually. So I liked it. I liked the episode because I'm on board with the series, but I can see where it can turn some people off too, because more of John outside of his helmet, outside of his
Right.
suit altogether. And
Mhm.
I think, the game, the people from the that are so stuck on the game and going, he never takes his helmet off, which we saw a lot of on the internet and review shows and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think that they're gonna be happy with this episode. But we can get more into it, whatever you want to speak about. But overall, I dug it. It was a great continuation. And I'm still on board.
Yeah, I love the word that you use, character study. It's
Hmm.
more this episode was more about the man underneath the Spartan helmet
Right.
that is John 117. And to your point, I think the only thing that came close to a firefight was that extremist who took over the young girl's planet, or I
Mhm.
guess city, let's call it a town, and and it showed once again how violent this show is.
Mhm.
He's literally putting bullets into these people, their head, and like it's like really intense, man.
Right.
That's just and I like how in the episode it's all like, okay, this is a partnership between UNSC and us, and
Mhm.
so it's just once again paints a bad picture of the UNSC. For myself, I didn't think this episode was bad, but it was definitely a slow burner in my
Mhm.
opinion. I thought the last 20 minutes really picked up
Mhm.
from the moment where he is holding the relic, talking to somebody who was taken prisoner by the
Mhm.
Covenant and has just totally lost his mind,
He's whacked out, yeah.
completely whacked out. And from that point
Reth or
on,
Roth? Roth or
I'm
Reth?
sorry,
I can't the name Roth or Reth?
Reth.
Reth, I think that yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah. Um, but I thought we learned a lot more about John and
Mhm.
just the inner conflict that he has. He's programmed to be this way, to think a certain way, even down to his taste. Like he doesn't taste,
Yeah.
and we're introduced early on to this character 066. I forget
Mhm.
his name.
Soren.
Soren, that's
Mhm.
it. And we learn more about John through Soren
Mhm.
and just how their relationship was, their brief relationship. Let's start with I know I said we're not going to go beat by beat, but let's start on that relationship and how
Mhm.
it begins. John is you can kind of see that, at some point in the beginning, John wanted to leave the program, the
Yeah.
Spartan program, but he's just way too hardwired to go against their orders and
Mhm.
whatnot. And so when he meets up with Soren, it turns into no, we're not escaping. You're not doing
Mhm.
this. I will fire my weapon. And Soren manages to talk him out of killing him and gives him all but 5 minutes.
Mhm.
I love that little introduction. It paid off as soon as we saw him again in present day, and it only added more to both of their relationship and John's as well. But how'd you feel about all of that?
Yeah, it definitely gave us an inkling that, whatever happened when he touched the relic, which we learned through the dialogue, is called a keystone, right?
Mhm.
With the head covenant people, which I'm forgetting. What are those guys floating in the chairs now? I would keep forgetting the name.
Oh, you mean
The
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 aliens?
yeah, the covenant guys in the
The
chair.
prophets. They're
The
called
prophets,
prophets.
I keep
Yeah,
forgetting the prophets,
yeah.
and the lady, and I can't remember her name either, but, we see that even before John touched that and actually got the, um, awakening, right, I
Mhm.
guess, of his memories, he
Right,
already had this, like, little rebellious side to him, so he was already at least in the moral compass of wanting to do the right thing or wanting to get away, I suppose, and I think from the conditioning that the UNSC does, he obviously it gets pushed down, right? It gets subdued, and it's because he becomes the Master Chief we know him to be
right.
later on. But he had that part of him, and so this thing just awoken that up, right? It just let it out finally, and he could flourish and actually save Quan's life. And when he tells Soren, he's like, "I'll give you 5 minutes," and so I was thinking, like, okay, he's just gonna say that, and Soren he goes, "Give me 10." He goes, "Nah, you got 5." And he goes off, and I was
Right.
thinking, "Okay, cool. We're gonna see this character later," which we do. We see him later. But and this is just me writing in my own head. It disappointed me that John did actually go wake up the whole camp because he straight up says, "You only gave me 5 minutes. They shot me out of the air. I had to live off a bark." for
Yeah,
days or weeks or whatever it was.
months. It was months,
Yeah,
yeah.
months. And so I was like, "Oh, John straight up went and told him." I was thinking like John might actually like give him some time and not actually, not actually send everyone after him. No, I guess
Yeah.
not. He did what he said he was gonna do. But there's where that at least that uh you know they still had that friendship, that kinship, I guess, that allowed Soren to actually help him out when he showed up on his doorstep type of thing. He knew he could go to that one person, the only person he knows out of the whole UNSC. So I was thinking that there was gonna be a swerve, there was gonna be a turn. Maybe he would turn him in for the bounty. Sorry, my dogs are barking.
It's
Maybe
all
he would
good.
turn him in for the bounty, but
Mhm.
they didn't happen, at least not that we saw yet. Maybe that's something gonna be, down the road in the series. Maybe we'll find out he's a bad guy. He seems like a good guy from his family stuff, so hopefully he stays that way. Because 'cause I'd really like him to be an actual positive character instead of like a scummy guy, but that's just me writing in my own head. I enjoyed it. It was a good look at his, the underside of what we didn't yet know John to be.
Yeah, as closed off as John is, we certainly, like I previously said, learn more about his character
Mhm,
through the way others see him. And that's definitely true with Soren. And like yourself, I got the feeling that is he gonna pull a fast one and, lead
mhm.
the UNSC to him? And not only does he get a bounty out of it, but now he's back in their good graces. So there's certainly a lot for Soren to gain by, turning John in. I'm keeping my eye on him. I'm not taking that out of the realm of possibility yet.
Right.
Um, yeah, so we'll see what happens with that. John leaves the kid, Quan is her name, Quan?
Mhm.
Quan behind,
Quan, yeah.
which, I mean, I don't know if I mean, I guess I agree with that in the sense that he's going back to the UNSC. His next best option would be, to leave that, with Soren.
Mhm.
And so what do you make of the prophets and them sending a human to go and retrieve the artifact?
Well, I
Because
don't
she
think
was
they're even.
clearly pushing
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They're not
for the
necessarily
mission.
sending, she is, like, demanding it. So, she holds some sort of sway, and I'm curious because we see her in a scene where she's undressing, and
Mhm,
I'm assuming getting into maybe she's gonna try to sneak in, so she's gonna, like, go undercover and wear some sort of, actual human clothing instead of whatever dress gown thing she was wearing.
mhm.
She holds some sway over whatever's going on with the prophets and what their plan is. Like she has some charge, and they obviously need to listen to her. But we see her undressing, and she has scars, and she's been through some stuff. So I'm curious if that'll come back around, like either John caused it, or maybe they grew up together, or maybe something to do with John's flashbacks will come out to be like, oh, they're brother and sister, or something like that. Especially
Oh,
since
man.
apparently they are the only two that can activate the keystone. Because we see Soren do it, we see Roth try to do it, and
Mhm.
didn't work for either of them, but obviously worked for John and this mystery woman. So I think they're definitely related somehow or
Mhm.
linked. They're linked together somehow. How
I
that
can't
is, I don't know. We'll find out.
man, I can't help but think, like, there's obviously a lot of passionate fans on Twitter who are, already disliking the direction of the show, and can you imagine if they did something like that to the Master Chief character?
Well, it
One
could be,
thing.
and
Oh,
we've said it from
go
the
ahead, go ahead.
beginning. I know nothing about the novels, so he might have a family, and obviously they're going with the family flashbacks. He had a family.
Right.
Uh, who's to say he doesn't have a sister? Now, I don't remember any woman ever being part of the covenant. Them having a human liaison or whatever. I don't remember
Mm.
any of that. So they definitely didn't touch on that in the games, but could have been in the books, and that could be some of the deeper stuff they get into. I don't know.
Yeah, he didn't have many relationships in the game outside of Master Sergeant Johnson, who bring him in season 2, please. Like, I found out he's not going to be in this first season,
Mhm.
and then of
I was
course,
thinking I was thinking Keys would be the analog for him is what I was
yeah,
assuming, yeah.
Keys, and then Cortana.
Mhm.
We called it. We
Yep.
said there's a real possibility she could show up in the very next episode. And while it's not the little blue, AI figure that we used to see,
Not
we
yet.
see a human form right
Mhm.
there. And she is awakened. And I love how it led into that. It wasn't just boom right there. Cortana is
Right.
there. It's kind of a slow introduction, and it makes sense. I mean, the UNSC, they're trying to figure out how to control Master Chief without destroying him because, like they
Mhm.
said in that council meeting, he is their only chance at, or their best chance, him and the Spartans,
Right.
at defeating the Covenant. By the way, we didn't see that much of the Covenant
We didn't.
um, in there. We saw a great shot, in my opinion, of one of the elites without their helmet. I think it
Mhm.
was the Arbiter, right? Pretty sure it was the Arbiter.
I mean, we don't he this was the guy he was in the cave
He was in the cave.
when the Spartans got the keystone first because you see him run away, they chased after him, he took off
Yeah.
in the Covenant ship. And, so I was just assuming that was the same one because he was telling the story of, with via sign language, like, of what John did with the thing. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, so I mean, it could be the Arbiter. Maybe he's like, "Hey, this guy can do the same thing. I'm on his side." He's not like all the rest of them. He's not normal. I don't know. Could be the same guy. He didn't speak at all. I think even via subtitles. I don't remember him speaking, but maybe I'm remembering wrong.
By the way, side note, the subtitles on I still have an Xbox One. I don't have an Xbox Series X yet, but man, the subtitles on that's bad. I had to switch to the Mac and watch
Oh,
the rest because the subtitles are so small, and then it made no
oh, really?
sense.
Okay.
Like the color of the fonts was black, so I couldn't even read. When there was a dark setting
Yeah.
somewhere.
There's
Yeah.
not a edit option on the Paramount Plus app for Xbox?
No.
Oh,
No, it's either you
okay.
choose the language of your subtitle and then audio, and that's it. So
That
I don't
sucks.
know. Um, so let's talk a little bit about the world of, I think they call it Rubble. It's where people
Mhm.
go who don't want to follow any orders or whatnot.
Right.
Reminded me of Demolition Man and
Mhm.
how Edgar Friendly underground and whatnot. By the way, that transportation system that they use is insane. Um, I mean, they take a cart and then it goes off a cliff and then it latches onto a cable and goes
Yep.
down. It's like, can you imagine if something a malfunction happened and it didn't, latch on and boom, there you go. End credits directed by blah blah blah. Like,
Well, you'd just be floating through space then.
you would just be
You're just floating.
floating. Just go off a cliff, man. But
You know they have, like, a National Guard system where they have a recovery system. They're like, "Ah, man, cable we missed another cable. Can
they
go pick up
better,
boxcar number 4. It's out.
right?
It's drifting off.
He's
It's getting
floating
close
off
to the
again.
sun."
Hurry. Um, I enjoyed the whole visuals of
Mhm.
that whole system and environment for myself. I can't remember if I've seen anything like that before. I thought it was creative, and I'm speaking for myself. Maybe you have, but
First
yeah.
thing I thought of was Guardians of the Galaxy when they go into the head of the Celestial, when they go
Yes.
into nowhere and that whole mining colony there. That
Yeah.
was the first thing I
Okay.
thought, but then, yeah, that what you said, well, when they were walking through the streets, exactly what you said, Demolition Man, like, that's such a perfect analog because you have this guy in charge who's running this band of, misfits and drug dealers, criminals, basically
Mhm.
anyone who wants to get away from living under the rule of the governing body, the
The
UNSC or whoever
UNSC, yeah.
else. Yeah. So that's where all the rebels hang out, basically.
Yeah, I mean, just take out the rat burger for the churro, and there you go.
Yeah, right. I brought churros.
Right, and, the fact that they introduced us to a character who had previously been kidnapped by the alien covenant made me think of, so let's call her the human representative
Mhm.
of the prophets and whatnot. Were they just going through humans trying to find the right one? I mean, because
Yeah.
as right now we don't have that much backstory on that and how they handled all of that. But
Mhm.
did you get the same thing that I did as far as like these prophets? Like, why would
I
they
think
kidnap humans? Like,
I think that's definitely gonna be something that we find out. I think that they're obviously playing to the history of John. Where did John come from, right?
hmm
That's what the keystone is unlocking in his mind is these memories. And I think they're gonna tie together. That's my assumption. That's my own story being written in my head is that they're gonna tie together that he and her have some sort of history together, and there will probably be a memory or a flashback or, the start of this episode itself was a flashback 22 years prior. So there will be some sort of, one side the UNSC tearing John out of the home, and then the other side the Covenant tearing her out of the home. Maybe I'm just writing a bad story in my head. Maybe that's what's gonna happen. I don't know.
the blessed ones. There you go,
Blessed
Gordon.
ones. Yeah, that's what
That's
he
it.
called them when he touched the relic. Yeah, yeah.
You are the
You
blessed
are a
one.
blessed. Yeah, exactly.
Gordon is the blessed one too. He's anytime he shows up, he's always clutch with his comments. Real quick, we got a few other people here. We got Derpy Gaming. I've enjoyed this show so far. I'm good.
Mhm.
Hang around. I
Yeah,
got good feelings after the way this episode ended.
right?
I like the momentum that they have. John Booz, as someone who jumped on multiplayer visiting friends' houses and only getting whiffs of the story, the show seems pretty dope so far. Oh yeah,
Mhm.
probably that first episode hit major nostalgia for you. I mean, because that firefight was all like from the sound design and
Right.
everything, and
That
the
might be
shield.
actually the perfect target audience, to be honest, is the multiplayer gamer and people who have never known any of the story, right?
Mhm.
Because any game I ever play, whether it be Call of Duty, Halo, whatever, I always play the story first. I enjoy the story. It helps you learn how to play the game, and then I'll push it through and then jump into multiplayer afterwards. I literally will not play the multiplayer until I finish the story. Um, but and because this show is such a divergent from the story of the original Halo,
Right.
maybe that those are the people who are getting upset about the departures from the original story. But it became famous, right? The game hit just the stratosphere, and so now Call of Duty and other games too, because of the multiplayer, because of the online play. And
Oh,
some
sure.
people just like my buddy Xbox guy, he's always been Call of Duty. He's literally never played a Halo game. He got the latest Halo game. He didn't touch the story. He just hopped right into the multiplayer. He doesn't even care about that. He just knows cool guys and cool outfits. You can customize your colors, customize your gun, like all that stuff. He has no idea what the story is. And so
Some
that is like
yeah.
yeah, that is like the perfect target audience. Them and, other people who just wanna watch good drama on TV, which I think this is. And but that is exactly who they're going for. So yeah, John Booz, you're the right guy, and that's probably exactly what Paramount and, Showtime wanna hear.
Right. And it also helps when you have Steven Spielberg who looks over all the scripts and is like,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, this works.
Right.
Um, so where do we go from here? Obviously, we're gonna see Cortana and
Mhm.
Master Chief, and the two of them pair together and sort
Yeah.
of be like a conscious, right? I
Well,
mean,
the general admiral, I can't remember her ranking. The person overseeing Halsey, she straight up says
the
after
Admiral,
she
yeah.
was kind of ambushed with the whole Cortana thing that straight up told her like, "Hey, cloning's illegal. You can't do this." And then she
hmm
brings it up in front of the whole council, and she's like, "All right, well now I have to say something about it." She says like, "Hey, yeah, let's try it out on John. He'll be our test subject." So I don't think that they're going to do this to all the Spartans yet until they figure out if it works with John first. But that's why we're going to get this soul relationship between Cortana and John, which is a huge part of the game is their relationship and the story and how they how she kind of becomes like his conscious, his best
hmm
friend, his love. I don't know if they love obviously, she's inanimate, but like mentally and emotionally, right? They're linked together so well.
Right.
And it's going to be the UNSC trying to control everything. But I think John is obviously going to fight that control. And
Mhm.
instead of her running him, they're going to be partnered together. And that's going to, who knows where else the story will go on from there. But they're going to be like on an adventure, essentially, I think, to unlock John's memories and kind of uncover the bigger truth about what this thing is and why is it a weapon? Why did the Covenant want it? Excuse me. And as that general says, or that admiral says, hey, well, if they want it, we want it, right? If the Covenant wants it for something, so do we. We need to figure out what they want it for, and we're going to use
Sure.
the same way, right?
And we got a little more of a indication that the rings, the Halo rings,
Hmm.
coming up, coming
Yep.
up in the next couple of episodes, and I just I think so much about the game, the lore, and whatnot, and how much they can fit into this first season. In the last
Hmm.
episode, we saw a little bit of the flood. We didn't actually see the parasites, but they were there and they were terrorizing the humans.
Hmm.
We'll be introduced to the Halo ring or rings. I think they said there were seven, right? Seven rings, something like that. And
I missed that part.
yeah, and see what that plays into it. And then obviously we're gonna have the infiltrator by the human covenant.
Hmm.
Um, they have a name for it. I can't remember what the name is called, but um we'll see what happens with that. I mean, does the relic how long does the relic stay on Reach? Not long. It's either gonna go with Master Chief or it's gonna get stolen, right? I mean,
I would assume until they try to activate it,
right.
and then
And
they're
then
gonna be like, ah, crap.
they find out John's the only one who can activate it.
Yeah.
Um,
Is her name Maki?
the
Makee?
the human that's with the prophets,
Yeah. Is that her? Or am I looking at
it might be.
or is that
Um,
Leia? No, Leia was Soren's wife.
yeah.
So it must be Mike. Make.
Hey, let
I
me ask
think.
you real quick. How'd you feel
Mhm.
about so streaming? Not always the best visuals. Did it take you out of this episode at times, or how'd you feel about that?
Trying to think of a moment. I
I
thought that
Go ahead.
Soren's body and his apparent
Oh,
regrown arm
the arm, yeah,
was a little weird. And then later when we see Bokeem Woodbine playing him and his person, whoever that was that first pulled the gun on Master Chief when they walked into the alleyway, and
hmm
he goes and puts a jacket on him right away. I thought that was just like a little weird. Like as soon as he walks up and he's like, "Oh, this is if he wanted you dead." He's like, "Oh, cool, thanks for the jacket." It's like, dude, he just walked into frame. Why are you throwing a jacket on him? It was kind of interesting the way, just the way that scene played out. Graphics wise, no, I thought it was, and I thought the light speed travel was really cool. They're going through
yeah, with
space,
the
and then
whole
the
overshield,
asteroid. I thought that whole, yeah, none of the graphics really seemed off to me. And the profits looked great in this one, maybe because it was more of a wide shot. It wasn't so close to him. I don't know,
right?
but I enjoyed it all. I didn't see any issues. But did you have a specific problem?
There was one shot where it pans over Reach, and then as it goes around the building, it focuses in on Doctor
Oh,
Housley
mhm.
and the commander, and I thought that was a little bit, ugh, but
Okay,
like for every one of those, there was two great shots, and I'm
okay,
thinking of the up close of the elite
hmm,
who was reporting to the prophets. And then just the whole zip lining of
yeah,
the way they, I can't get over that. That was
hmm.
just really impressive to see. Okay, so any expectations you have for the next episode? Anything you want them to not waste any time on and go into, or something that hasn't been yet introduced?
I mean, pretty obvious that we're gonna get Cortana introduced to John, right?
Right.
As soon as the episode starts.
Hmm.
I wonder what we're gonna see now that because the whole scene where he left Rubble and left Quan behind, it kind of made it feel to me like it was a slow motion shot even. Like that's the last time we're gonna see them together. There and we might start seeing two divergent storylines happening. So John is now on his adventure to figure it out, and he and Quan and Soren are playing like support from afar. Or we're gonna see now that we know these two different sets of characters, we're gonna see Soren helping Quan to maybe stage a rebellion to go back to Madrigal to overtake
Mm.
Vinisher. Can't remember the guy's name.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
it starts with a V.
yeah, I
Let's
have it.
see here.
Venture. Yeah,
Venture.
Venture.
Yeah.
And so maybe that, and she's gonna like take up arms with like, let's get out of this floating piece of rubble in space and let's go down to the island, the planet or something like maybe something like that's gonna happen. But it just the way that scene played made me feel like that's the last time we're gonna see those two together, at least for a while. So that's we're gonna see the seeds of both of those divergent storylines starting out is my anticipation for the next episode.
I like the idea that Quan goes and starts a rebellion.
Mhm.
They show her a couple times looking at the monitor
Yes, exactly.
and just focused in on that. And that would be something I would like to see. And it would
Mhm,
also give the opportunity for Cortana and Master Chief to build that relationship that works so well in the video games. I mean,
mhm,
I think about that. I think about to a far less campy extent the Eddie Brock Venom relationship, and all that. Um, so I do like that. It didn't cross my mind that that could be the last time we see them together,
mhm.
but it would be something that I would welcome,
Right,
given the introduction of new characters and just how much ground they're going to pretty soon have to cover.
right.
Before we get going here and get out of here, just a couple more comments. Gordon says, "I thought Quan was going to sneak onto the ship." Yeah, that would have been a little
Yeah.
cliche, you know.
Mhm.
Oh, I'm gonna ignore your orders and hide in the cargo. But then, you know, can you imagine Master Chief? He as he's walking away from the Pelican, taken into custody. Imagine if he looks back and sees Quan taken into custody too. He's like, "Ah, damn it!
Because we just did. I
Now
just
I
got
have
you.
this to worry about too."
Yeah, I just hid you.
Right. John Boo's the less funny scientist from Pacific Rim must be overthrown. Oh,
Burn Gorman plays a fantastic. His name is Burn Gorman, and he's also in The Dark Knight Rises. He plays a
yeah.
fantastic, like creepy guy,
Hmm.
and you always think he's gonna be a bad guy, and this is the first time like you actually kind of see him like being just brutal.
Brutal,
And
ruthless.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So I don't know. I enjoy him, but he's obviously playing very good, like sinister type of just an evil human, an evil person. So anyway,
And the epitome of why the UNSC has such a bad rap, like,
yes, exactly.
yeah, he needs to go soon.
Yeah, right.
But that's going to do it for us. Thank you so much for joining us, those of you in the chat. Halo episode 2. You guys have been leaving your thoughts on this episode, and we love it. We love having you here. Love having you here, Sean. Always a good
Hey.
time talking to you about Halo. Before we go, plug anywhere they can find you online, what you're up
uh,
to.
So tomorrow, Jesse and I over on Flick and Reel, which is right here on the telly. Flick and Reel on YouTube. Check us out. Come subscribe to our channel. We're trying to work our way up. We're gonna do kind of like a weekend review, and then so we're gonna talk Moon Knight. We're gonna talk Halo. We're gonna talk Schmodown. If you guys enjoy the Schmodown, uh, tune into tomorrow's episode. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised with who is competing. And I think that maybe talk the Oscars. I don't know. We'll see if we get around to it. We don't. We typically try to keep it more pop culture type of stuff, not necessarily touch on all the drama that happened. But we're gonna
Drama.
do a week in review, bring back our speakeasy, and just hang out, shoot the shit. It's our normal weekly, like a kind of a wind down show.
All right, you guys look forward to that, and you can find me on Twitter at FandomUnited21, Apocalypse now every Tuesday, And excuse me, Marvel Rewind is back on Wednesdays. So we are busy over here on the channel. And thanks again to everyone in the chat for stopping by. And you know what, real quick,
Yeah,
one more.
real quick, we can rate it.
Sir, rate this Halo series. How much stars will you give 10 out of um and I know what you mean. I'm gonna give it a 7. 7 out of 10 for myself so
I was
far.
thinking 7 to 8. I don't like doing a 7 point. I hate when people do like 7.8 out of 10. No, like just do it out of 100 then. Why not? But I think I'm on a 7 nearing an 8. It can definitely land as an 8. I want to see a little more action. I think that's the one thing I'm missing
Mhm.
is more of the gunplay. I think it'd be fun because I really liked in the first episode how they got hopped into his visor, and so you
Mhm.
could see part of that when he was fighting the Covenant. What's up, Star? And so I think I'd like a little more of that, but I'm digging everything else so far. I will rate the series as a whole once the episode or the season is over. I think that's the best way is to look back on it. Each episode itself is I'll give it a 7. But it has so much room for improvement. And 7's not a bad thing too. I think, 4 or 5 is a bad thing. 7's a good thing.
Oh yeah.
It's doing its job.
And we have 7 episodes left. So
Yeah.
stay tuned. We're right at that point now where everyone who has seen and given out their early reviews of the first 2 episodes now from this
Mhm.
point on, it's going to be a whole new discovery for everybody. And join
Right.
us next Thursday for the Halo series review, episode 3, and that'll be at 6:30 Pacific time. For Sean, for Gio, that'll do it. You guys have a good one. Take care.